All right, I've hit go live.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public hearing for the Town of Normal CDBG Program Year 2020 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or 2020 C.A.P.E.R for short. This is Jennifer Toney, the Town of Normal's Community Development Specialist. The purpose of this hearing is to provide the public with an overview of the key elements of the 2020 C.A.P.E.R. Additionally, the hearing serves as the first opportunity to provide comment on the report prior to its submission to HUD. Written comments will be accepted through the entire 15-day public comment period. Unfortunately, no one pre-registered to provide comment at this hearing. Since this is live streaming on YouTube, I'm going to continue with the presentation for those who may be listening. So let's get started. As I stated, tonight's presentation will focus on the key elements of the program year 2020-2021 program, CDBG program. This hearing kicks off the 15-day public comment period, which will end at noon on July 30th. I'll provide information at the end of the presentation to let everyone know where they can view a copy of the draft document and how to provide written comment. Oops. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with the Community Development Block Grant Program, it's a formula grant the town receives from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD as it's commonly referred to. The town is considered an entitlement community, meaning that the town is entitled to a certain amount of funding each year based on a specific formula calculated by HUD. As with all federal funding, CDBG is governed by many regulatory requirements. One requirement is that the town must develop and implement a 5-year strategic plan that serves as the framework for all CDBG programming. Within each individual program year of the 5-year plan, the town must develop an annual action plan. The C.A.P.E.R is the year-end report that is required at the end of each annual action plan cycle. Regulations require the C.A.P.E.R be made available to the public for review and public comment for 15 days, in addition to a public hearing. Program year 2020-2021 was the first year of the 2020-2024 consolidated plan period. The C.A.P.E.R provides information on the town's progress towards meeting the 5-year goals, outlines program expenses, and explains the efforts made to comply with federal requirements associated with CDBG program implementation. Sorry, folks, I'm working 2 screens here. For program year 2020, oops, sorry. Okay. Program year 2020 was a year like no other in the town's history with CDBG funding due to the pandemic. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the C.A.R.E.S Act, provided additional funding to the town for the purpose of preventing, preparing for, and responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. The funding was provided in 2 separate awards that totaled $581,426. This funding is referred to as CDBG CV. In addition to the funding, the C.A.R.E.S Act also waived some of CDBG's regulatory requirements. Early in the pandemic, the town staff collaborated with many organizations to try to determine what the unmet needs for the community would be. Ultimately, housing security appeared to be the largest unmet need, leading to the formation of the McLean County Housing Coalition. This coalition is comprised of service providers and funders working together to maximize the community's available resources for housing security, including rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. This coalition continues to meet today and strategize how to continue to meet the needs of the community. For households with school-aged children, the transition from in-person to remote learning was a real struggle, especially for those with limited or no internet access. In an effort to help those families obtain the resources they needed for their children to be successful, the town partnered with Unit 5, the Children's Discovery Museum Foundation, and the Normal Public Library Foundation to provide in-home educational kits designed to provide opportunity for internet-free learning. In total, $645,380 in funds were expended in program year 2020. This total is comprised of both regular CDBG allocation and CDBG CV funding. Let's start with an overview of the programs offered with the regular CDBG funds. In a typical year, funding to activities that qualify as a public service is capped at no more than 15% of the annual allocation. One of the CARES Act waivers allowed for program year 2020 funding for public services to go above the 15% cap, as long as the amount over the cap was for the purpose of preventing, preparing for, and responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. The town received permission from HUD to utilize this waiver to allow for $15,000 of its 2020 allocation to be used to provide the in-home educational kits previously mentioned. In total, 3,500 kits were distributed to income eligible households. Other public services funded with the CDBG allocation include PATH's Homeless Outreach Services Program and the Unity Community Center's Youth Activities Program. These were continuation programs from previous years. Both programs were able to meet their annual goals despite encountering many obstacles related to the pandemic. Housing rehabilitation was a new priority area for the 2020-2024 consolidated plan. The town started working towards meeting the 5-year housing rehabilitation goals in program year 2020. The town partnered with the local AMBUCS chapter to address accessibility concerns for its residents. Through this partnership, AMBUCS works with the resident to develop a site plan and provides the volunteer labor for construction of a ramp, while the town provides CDBG funding to purchase the building materials. One project was completed in program year 2020. 2020 was also the first program year for the town's partnership with Habitat for Humanity of McLean County. Habitat offers a program called A Brush with Kindness that provides minor exterior housing repairs. Like the AMBUCS program, CDBG funds are used to purchase building materials. 3 A Brush with Kindness projects were completed in program year 2020. The town looks forward to building on the first year successes for both of these new programs. The town's down payment assistance program is not a new program. The purpose of this program is to help low and moderate income households achieve the goal of home ownership by alleviating the financial burden of down payment and closing costs. The town helped 5 income eligible households achieve home ownership in program year 2020. The town completed several infrastructure projects in the program year as well. As you can see, the activities consisted of street resurfacing, sidewalk improvements, and sanitary sewer lining. All activities occurred in areas qualified as low and moderate income by HUD. More than 10,000 residents benefited from these infrastructure improvements. The town always puts as much of its allocation into programming as possible. Regulations cap the amount of funds spent on administrative expenses at 20% of the total allocation. In program year 2020, the town's administrative expenses were under 7%. The majority of these administrative expenses were related to administrative programs that help preserve the area's affordable housing stock and support fair housing programs. A good portion of 2020, the program year 2020, was spent planning for the launch of the town's COVID-19 housing assistance program. The town partners with Mid-Central Community Action to administer the program. In total, the town expended $127,000 $565 of its CDBG CV allocation. That's about 20% of the total allocation. 80% of the CDBG CV funding must be expended by September 30th, 2020. The town fully anticipates it will meet that benchmark. We've spent quite a bit more on the housing program this year already during the current program year, which started April 1st, than we spent in the total of last year because we haven't had to do the initial planning. As previously mentioned, the C.A.P.E.R is subject to a 15-day public comment period, which began today and will run through noon on the 30th. Anyone interested in viewing the full C.A.P.E.R can view an electronic copy on the town's website, and the address is provided on this slide. Paper copies are also available in the town's clerk office, which is in the second floor of 11 Uptown Circle, and at the Normal Public Library. Written comments can be submitted by mail or email. Written comments must be received by noon on the 30th to be included with the final submission to HUD. Questions can be directed to my attention at jtoney@normal.org or by calling 309-454-9766. That concludes tonight's presentation. I hope you will take time to review the full report and provide comment prior to the deadline. Thanks for listening and have a great evening.